Today on CLC.
Because this is what we need to get to this morning, is to see how in control God is of your life. He never does evil. God does it himself. How great God is in control. I don't think Rachel knew. He had a cooking clue how sovereign and how God had his hand in the choosing of this name of Joseph. I want you to go to the book of Genesis and chapter 12. Let's start over there and find God's sovereignty, his sovereign plan, that which he is in full control of. He has been in control from Genesis chapter 1, and he is in control right now, where he calls a man by the name of Abraham. At that stage was Abram, no H. And God chooses this man and he brings him out. Sovereign plan. And I want to read that to you very quickly in Genesis chapter 12. Because this is what we need to get to this morning, is to see how in control God is of your life. I think of Genesis chapter 18 verse 25. The judge of the earth, the judge, that person who is in control shall do that which is right all the time. He never does evil. He always does that which is right, even using evil to the shame of evil, so that those who belong to him would struggle against that evil, but man, do they grow. Now the Lord, chapter 12, says to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Just like that. As he gets his family together and he's off, he listens. And I will make you a great nation. Now this is very important. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name so great that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in all your families of the earth you shall be blessed. And then if you flip over the page to chapter 5, Abraham gets called out of the Ur of the Chaldeans, and he goes into Canaan. That's a very important point, very important place for us to understand this morning. He gets called and he goes into Canaan. There already we see that God has planned that this land of Canaan will belong to his people one day. God gives it to Abraham. Abraham doesn't need to go and conquer it. He doesn't need to go to make war against anyone. God says, I am giving it to you. In fact, it says, he sets out to go into the land of Canaan, and when they came to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed to the land of Shechem. But now let's go to Genesis chapter 15, and we'll just get closer and closer to the story of Joseph. Genesis chapter 15. This is God's covenant with Abraham. Still not with an H, just with a normal Abraham. And I'll read a couple of verses for you, and then I will go to the passage that I really want to deal with. God says to Abraham in a vision, fear not, Abraham, I am your shield, I am your great reward. Your reward shall be very great, rather. But Abraham said, O Lord, what will you give me? I will continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And then God goes on to promise him, no, you will have a son. And as you all know, at the age of 99, an impossibility, along comes Isaac. But I want you to go to verse 12, verse 12 of chapter 15. And in this great promise, God says in a dream, actually a dream which most of us would call a nightmare. It says this, as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abraham. And behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in the land that is not theirs, and will be servants, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on that nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, You shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they will come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not complete. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord God made a covenant with Abraham, saying, to your offspring, to those still to come, I give this land. I give it. Me. I'm in control. I've chosen this land. This will be yours. I'm giving you, I'll make a covenant. And by the way, God makes this covenant. Abraham's not even involved in this covenant. God does it himself. And he, by his own name, swears this. To your offspring I'll give this land from the river of Elah. Listen to how great this is. How large this land really is. From the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. That's how great this land will be. Again, God makes his promise. God shows Abraham how sovereign he is. And as the story goes through Abraham will beget Isaac, and Isaac will eventually beget Jacob. And that's where I want to head again. So let's flip over. I think to 29 will suffice. Chapter 29. And just bear with me. I need to give you a backdrop to this, because I can't afford the time to go through the history of Abraham, which is rather great. Actually, it's funny enough that the Bible spends, I think, only a couple of chapters on the life of Isaac, the promised child, who Abraham almost slaughtered. But the Bible concentrates more on the story of Jacob and Esau, and then gives much concentration from chapter 37. It skips chapter 38 because it comes up with this weird story with Judah and Tamar. It's almost this kind of intermission, this interlude between what's happening with Joseph, and it skips to chapter 38, gets dedicated to Judah and Tamar with a really weird story, which I don't have time to concentrate on this morning, and then it goes back to the life of Joseph. And it's chapter 37, 39, right through 50, deals with Joseph in much detail. So much so that you cannot miss how great this story is, how great God is in control, how great this antitype or antitype of Jesus is found in Joseph, that the very life of Joseph is an epitome. It epitomizes that Messiah which is to come. But chapter 29, we need to get behind this so I can give you a backdrop on how the story unfolds. And guys, this is so important to get the story of Joseph. Because in chapter 29, we find that Jacob leaves Rebekah, his mother. By the way, if you would ever find contempt and deceit of proportions, you would find it in the life of Jacob and his mother Rebekah, how they deceived their father. It's beyond me. The deception that they use against their father. But yet God is still in control. In 29:16 it says, now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. But look what it says about Rachel. But Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Need I say more? Immediate love between Jacob. And we know the story unfolds that Jacob works for Laban 7 years for the price, a bride price of Rachel. But Laban does him one over, and I don't know how this happens, but Leah ends up in his bed. And Jacob wakes up the next morning. I don't know if he had too much to drink, but he wakes up the next morning, behold, there's Leah. What on earth happened here? And he gets into a tiff with Laban. Laban says, no, it's our custom. It's our custom. My firstborn must go to you first. So of course, another week later, he gets Rachel to marry Rachel, but he has to pay for that for 7 years. Getting paid back the very same. This is where we're going this morning, family. Now follow me and I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. We're looking at Genesis chapter 29 through 30. Jacob has two wives. Who are they? Leah and Rachel, right? The two wives have two handmaidens by the name of Zilpah and Bilhah. First one is barren, Leah. She's just not producing any children. Well, that comes later. First of all, she gives Jacob Reuben, means a son or a great surprise. Her second child with Jacob, this is Leah, a Simeon. God has heard me, because she was barren. The Bible actually says she was barren. Then Levi, which means an attachment. Then Judah, which means praise. And then all of a sudden she comes barren again. Right? And then she says to Jacob, sleep with one of my handmaidens, Zilpah. Now it was customary in those days. So out of Zilpah comes Gad, which means good fortune, and Asher, I am happy, I'm a happy woman, women have called me happy. But in the meantime, Rachel is as barren as can be. She can have no children. God has closed her womb. What Rachel does immediately, because now Leah is having so many more children than she is, Rachel gives her handmaiden, which actually is her half-sister, Bilhah, to Jacob. And Jacob goes into them, and out of them comes Dan. God has judged me and heard my voice. That's his name, Rachel. That's Rachel's name to the son, Dan. Then you get Naphtali. I have wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. So that's the name. I've wrestled with my sister Leah. And she's had it over me, she's gloated over me. But here's Naphtali, God has heard me, God has seen my wrestling, and I have prevailed. But yet it's still not her own child. Time to come that God eventually opens Rachel's womb for the first time, without any other people involved, half-sisters and handmaidens. And along comes the very first son to Jacob, and his name is Joseph. Now this is very, very important for us to catch this morning. Joseph's name has got two meanings. This is what it means. God may add, and then God may take away. That's what it means. I don't think Rachel knew. He had a cooking clue how sovereign and how God had his hand in the choosing of this name of Joseph. I don't think she had a cooking clue, nor did Jacob. They did not know what was to come. They did not know that dream that was shown to Abraham. So she calls this son, her very first son. By the way, there's 12 sons. Benjamin would be the last one, which, by the way, 30 tells us his name is actually called Benoni, son of my sorrows. But also, it means son of my right hand. At the same time, his name gets changed by Jacob to Benjamin. I don't think Rachel also knew that that name Benoni would actually become true to the T, would be son of her sorrows. But our concentration is really here on Joseph. We've got 12 sons. Within chapter 29 and 30, we've got 12 sons. We can see the whole organigram of how it happens. Leah, she's barren. We get the two, well, yes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's 5? Help me. There's 5, there's 6, then there's 7, then there's 8, then there's 9. Issachar, God has repaid. By the way, that comes again from Leah. Her own 2 children, she gets barren. You get God has repaid me, and Zebulun, God has honored me. So we've got 12 sons floating around here. Benoni comes much later. Very important name this, right? Because if you look at the picture of Joseph, let's hoof over to chapter 35. This is so important. Go to chapter 35. I want to show you firsthand what happens. God may add for the name of Joseph, and God may take away. Benoni comes, calls son of my sorrows. Chapter 35, Rachel gives birth to Benoni. So second son, and it would be her last son that she gives to Jacob. Rachel dies at that birth. She has complications, she dies. God may take away. Do you see? Never knew it. She never knew she would lose her life. But that God may add? Yes, that would come later. God added Benoni, but he also became the one that God took away. She became that God took away. Through the name, that very name of Joseph. But hey, family, that's not where the story ends. It gets much more intricate. I want to show you the sovereignty of God. I want to show you how in control God is, even of a giving of a name. How in control God is of your circumstances right now, my situation, and as I look at my wife at the camera, how in control God is of her life right now. We don't even have a clue what is to come. How in control God is. Judges. Benoni, son of my sorrows. Benjamin, son of my right hand. If you go to the book of Judges, chapter 20, Benjamin would actually become son of great sorrows. Why? Because he would be the one that is warring against Israel. He would be, that bad tribe of Benjamin would be in the thorn in the flesh of Israel. Judges and chapter 20. Verses 18 tells us that that very name, Benoni, son of my sorrows, would become a great sorrow to Israel himself, the tribe of Israel. Because they would be a people that would be warring against their own brothers and their own sisters. And verse 18 says, the people of Israel rose up and went up to Bethel. By the way, Bethel means El means God, Beth means house. House of bread, or just plainly a house. So they go up to the house of God and inquire of God, who shall go up first for us to fight against the people of Benjamin? Benjamin would indeed become great sorrow for Israel. Joseph would become a great addition to the people of Israel. By the way, would Joseph be taken away as well? Yes, he would. Where do we find that? Chapter 37.